Hey guys, welcome back to Oopsie Daisy. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am your host, Amanda Herdler. We are here to talk about the real, the raw, the messy, the weird parts of faith that as Christians we are too scared to say out loud. And so I'll do it. I'll get behind the mic and I'll say things that most of us want to say so that we can just drop the act, drop the pressure, and grow wild and free in Jesus. So that's what we're here to do today. We're talking about, okay, this is a really gross way to start, but I've been thinking about constipation lately and not the digestive constipation. Let me explain. So I've been reading the Bible and just studying things and learning things as usual, but it has felt like I'm just trying to cram another piece of paper in an already full file cabinet. And I'm like, nothing's really sticking. Things are falling out over the side. And so nothing's really going deep in me. I've been thinking about this idea that we get spiritually constipated. And what I mean by that is that we are taking in and consuming and learning and growing and having our personal relationship with the Lord. And these things are all great, grand, and wonderful. But then they stay in us. They stay for us. They stay about us. And what the Lord is reminding me lately is that I'm not consuming all of this truth, this healing, this breakthrough, this wisdom and freedom. I'm not consuming that and experiencing that for it to just stay inside me. It's supposed to be a pipeline from the Lord through me to other people. When we keep hoarding our healing and keeping these lessons that we're learning to ourselves, or sanitizing our stories and making us look like we're so great, grand, and wonderful on the outside, we get spiritually clogged. It's almost like a blockage, and it doesn't just affect us. It keeps someone else down the line from us from getting what they need. So this episode is really about how a lot of us are walking around spiritually bloated, just full of freedom and righteousness and breakthrough and the Lord's Spirit, but we're staying silent and we're staying locked down, and we are not allowing what God has done in us and for us to flow through other people, and how damaging that can be, and how we were not called to that. In fact, we were commanded to do the exact opposite as that. So as I've been thinking about this last couple weeks, it all kind of came together for me this past Sunday. We were sitting in church and our pastor preached a sermon on the things we are called to as Christians. And he talked about the things that Jesus was sent to do and how we are sent to do the same things. So let's look at Isaiah 61 and see what Jesus was sent for and then what that means for us. So Isaiah the prophet is speaking prophetically about the Messiah, about Jesus, and says, "The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is upon me, for the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to comfort the brokenhearted and to proclaim that the captives will be released and the prisoners will be free." I like how the Passion Translation says it. It says, "The mighty Spirit of the Lord Yahweh is wrapped around me because Yahweh has anointed me as a messenger to preach good news to the poor. He sent me to heal the wounds of the brokenhearted, to tell captives you are free, and to tell prisoners be free from your darkness." So this is Old Testament stuff, but we find out in the Gospel of Luke, Jesus is preaching in the tabernacle, and he reads Isaiah 61 and says to the people, "This is me. You hearing this today and me saying these words, this is me. I have fulfilled this. This is my job." But here's where we come in. In John 20, after Jesus has died on the cross and after he is resurrected, he shows the disciples the wounds on his hand and the wounds in his side. And he says to them, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, so I am sending you." So Jesus was on a mission to die for our sins, to restore our good relationship with the Father, and to do all of those things. Proclaim the good news, proclaim freedom, heal people, deliver them, set the captives free, release the prisoners, all of those things. So he was sent on a mission, and now we are too. because the Lord had sent Jesus that way. And Jesus in John 20 says, just like my dad sent me, I'm sending you. There's 5 ways that the Father sent Jesus. And these are all found in Luke and John. Luke 4:19 says he sent Jesus to set the captives free, which reflects Isaiah 61. Luke 4:43 says that Jesus was sent to proclaim good news. Luke 19:10 says that he was sent to seek and save the lost. John 6:38 says he was sent to fulfill the Father's will. Those are huge pieces of Jesus's mission. And because the Father sent Jesus and Jesus sent us just as the Father sent him, those are now our mission too. So I'm like, okay, Amanda, let's run through this checklist in my life. Am I setting captives free? Am I proclaiming good news? Am I seeking and saving the lost? Am I fulfilling the Father's will? And I was like, oh, I felt so much anxiety rise up within me. And I'm like, I don't know how to do all that. In my head, I'm picturing, okay, setting captives free. To me, I'm like, okay, does this look like laying hands on people and releasing them from demons? Like, I don't know. I've prayed deliverance over people, but I don't do that a lot. Proclaiming good news. Like, yeah, I talk about it, but I'm not out on the streets evangelizing and handing out verses and all of these things. And I don't know if I'm great at seeking and saving the lost so well on like just your typical Tuesday. It's really not on the top of my to-do list. So I don't know, this like performancy, perfectionist part of me started rising up. I'm like, bro, I'm not doing all of this. I'm kind of sucking it up over here. And the Lord stepped in and he was like, you need to take a deep breath, because the way that he did it in the Bible is not necessarily the same way it will manifest and show up as opportunities for us to do that and fulfill that mission in our life. And I'm like, okay, well, if I'm not, got my Jesus sandals on and my loincloth or whatever they wore, and I'm not walking through the desert setting captives free, what am I supposed to do? And it hit me. He gave us our story. He consistently shows up for us. He consistently works things in us. He fixes us. He makes us righteous. He heals us. He gives us wisdom. He rescues us from the pit. And all we have to do is talk about those things. I think a lot of us get super screwed up because we think these missions, this mission that we're sent out on, has to be fulfilled in like a grand and churchy way on a pulpit or in some big street corner with a sign and a megaphone going, repent of your sins, heaven draws near. Like, that's not what it looks like. He doesn't always send us with a sermon. He doesn't always put us on a pulpit. But what he gave us is something that every single one of us has, and that is our story. Your story, your testimony, what God has done in you and walked you through is a delivery system for hope for the oppressed. It's a light in the darkness for people that need it. Those 4 separate missions fall under one assignment, and that is to tell your story. This is actually commanded all over the Bible. Revelation 12:11 said they overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. Psalm 107 says, has the Lord redeemed you? Then speak it out. The Gospel of Mark, Jesus tells a man he heals, he goes, get up, go and tell what the Lord has done for you. We don't just want to live healed. We're commanded to tell people what he has healed us from. We're commanded to talk about who we used to be and why we are different now. Because the sharing of that honesty becomes somebody else's hope. Your confession of what you've walked through becomes somebody else's courage or pathway to Christ. The freedom that you talk about makes other people want that. It draws them in. It becomes their invitation to turn their mind, their heart, their curiosity towards Jesus and wonder, hey, how do I get that too? I don't care if it's addiction, shame, anxiety, fear, doubt, finances, divorce, porn, alcoholism, like whatever this looks like, whatever breakthrough God has done in your life, Nobody else is going to realize that it happened unless you talk about it, unless you're willing to be vulnerable and to understand that there is a weapon in the words of your testimony, that it defeats the enemy, that it's breaking open the bindings of people that are suffocating under the weight of this bondage. You have to be willing to talk about your testimony and not just live it quietly and hope people notice the transformation in you. When I was thinking about this in church on Sunday, I really got stuck on this idea of setting the captives free and how our story can really, really do that. Our willingness to be open with people. Everybody knows somebody that's like straitjacketed, that is so tied up and bound and crushed under the weight of something that they can't hardly draw a breath, that they are struggling with a straitjacket of people pleasing or guilt or addiction, anxiety, sin, depression, fear, financial scarcity. And we are walking around with an active, alive testimony of how God showed up in one of those situations, or how he came through for you, how he broke that off of you, how he healed that in you, and how much better and amazing and free you feel, and the light that has come to your life now that you no longer struggle with that. We are walking around holding the tool that can untie somebody's straitjacket. We're walking around with closed mouths and the key to somebody's handcuffs in our back pocket, and we are not willing to say something. And so it's like we're literally walking past people on the side of the road that are actively struggling and screaming for help. We have the answer, and we silently walk by. And I know I do it too. Like, oh, sure, man, like you're a podcaster and you tell your whole story and all this stuff. Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. And can I tell you that out of all the podcasts and all the speaking events that I've done and all the teaching that I have done, the one thing that people come back to and say impacted their life so much is my story. It's my vulnerable truth about how I used to be an addict, an adulteress, a liar, a cheat, depressed, anxious, ill. I used to be all of these things. And when I share with them what God has done to repair my heart and my marriage and my family and where we are now, that out of every piece of teaching, that is what people come back to. And that's what they cling to and say, if God did it for her, he can do it for me. Or if God did it for their family, he can do it for mine. And so even though I share those things, and even though I understand like face to face the impact of that stuff, I still find myself in situations where I keep my dang mouth shut, where I don't say anything about Jesus, or I don't share my testimony, or I shy away from really the ugly truth that led to beautiful blessings, but like this hideous reality of who I was and what I did. There are still situations that I get scared to say it. And so I've been thinking about that. When we have the anti-venom to somebody's snake bite, and we have the antidote to somebody's poison that they have rolling around in their system that is absolutely choking the life out of them, why do we stay quiet? There's 4 reasons why we stay quiet. The first one is the idol of comfort. I think that in 2025 Christianity that we don't understand what it is to be uncomfortable. We worship in our comfy seats and listen to our great music at church, and we have our beautiful little quiet time at home, and we put Jesus in our back pocket and carry him, throughout the day, but we don't understand the awkwardness of stepping out against the culture, against what most people are doing, thinking, and believing, to say it. Because we're afraid to make it awkward. We're afraid to make things messy. We would rather keep our Christianity close to our chest. Christianity has gone through these shifts where I remember when I was younger, it was all about evangelism. It was all about getting on the street and handing out verses and doing those things. And that exists now. But I think we've swung so far the other way where we talk about this personal relationship with Jesus. You have to have a personal relationship with Jesus. Yeah, you're a Christian, but like, do you have a relationship with Jesus? That's great, grand, and wonderful. But I think we've swung so far that we are so worried about our personal connection with the Lord that we are unwilling to step out of the comfort of our living room and out of the comfort of our own one-on-one intimate time with Him to share it with other people. It's messy. It makes people uncomfortable when you mention the word Jesus. Like, yeah, drop God in the conversation. I think people are fine with that. But the minute you say Jesus, things start to get a little like you can feel it. There's like a spark in the conversation where I think God is palatable to us. But when you say, I believe in Jesus, here's what Jesus has done in my life. I was this way and Jesus made me completely different. That makes us uncomfortable. It makes other people feel uncomfortable. It's really messy to find a place in the conversation for that sometimes. And so we would just rather stay silent because it's easier. And so we have idolized our own personal comfort over allowing God to use us as a pipeline for other people. The second reason why we stay quiet is fear of people. We are horrible people pleasers. Popularity and other people's opinion matters to us way more than we want to admit. Like I hate that this is a reality for me. It matters. My image to other people matters. I think of a woman at church, Peggy. I love Peggy. Peggy, if you're listening, you are my hero. I just like, Peggy does not care what anybody else thinks of her. She is an absolute on fire, outwardly spoken, loudmouth for Jesus in the very, very best way because she does not care what other people think. I was really challenged by this idea. Like, I think this is a bigger issue in myself than I think it is. And I started thinking about what if I keep choosing popularity? What if I keep choosing fitting in? What if I keep choosing having people be, oh, she's so funny. Like, she's so fun to hang out with. Am I willing to sacrifice that in the name of sharing about Jesus and sharing my story and having them say, ooh, I don't know. Like, I don't know if we should invite her. She's kind of a Jesus freak. Like, she kind of makes me uncomfortable with all that Jesus talk. Am I willing to do that? Am I compromising that much on earth that I'm going to get to heaven and Jesus is going to look at me and say, I wish that I could say, well done, good and faithful servant. I wish I could, but I can't. Because you were so worried about pleasing people down here, people who are going to forget you 3 weeks after they met you and that you're not going to have any impact in their life. And you closed your mouth about your freedom and your testimony because you wanted to make a good impression. That kills me. I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend my time pleasing a temporary population in a temporary world only to get to heaven and find out that my eternal Father and my eternal existence wasn't a priority. Galatians 1:10 says this, obviously, I am not trying to win the approval of people, but of God. If pleasing people were my goal, I would not be Christ's servant. So maybe we need to think about this black and white. You are either a servant of Christ and you are willing to rock the boat, look bad, look stupid, make an idiot of yourself, be separated, be ostracized, be talked about behind your back, be disinvited. You're either on that team or you're on the other team. You're either Christ's servant or you're on the other team. Because I don't think you can do both. Truly, if you are obedient and submitted and doing what the Lord calls you to do and sharing what the Lord calls you to share, you're not always going to please people. It's guaranteed. The Bible promises in this world you will have trouble. And some of your trouble will be because you follow the Lord. So I really have to get real about, am I staying quiet? Am I backing down because I want to be praised by people? Or do I want to be faithful to God? Reason number 3 that we stay quiet and don't love to share what we've been through and we don't love to share about God and what He's done is that we have like this spiritual imposter syndrome. This idea that I'm still in process. I don't have it all figured out. I'm not perfect. I still slip. Not every piece of my life has fallen into place yet. So who am I to talk about this? But if you think about it, even in your own life, healing and freedom and change, it's not an overnight thing. It's not a one-time event. It's not like a snap of your fingers and on Tuesday I was screwed up and Wednesday I'm fine. It's not like that. Every person and every problem they have is in a process. The Lord will bring you to people who you can speak to that part of the process. The Bible talks about how we are changed from glory to glory. It's the process of sanctification, of becoming more and more like Jesus every day. This process, the good work that the Lord has begun in you is not going to be finished until you get to heaven. He's going to finish the good work that he started in you long ago, but it's not going to happen in this lifetime because you can't achieve perfection in this lifetime. The completion of your process is when you get to heaven and become whole in Jesus. That's what it is. Until then, you're just running the race like everybody else, plodding one foot in front of the other, trying to figure out each new phase, every new day, the new season that brings new challenges, new perspectives, new ways of thinking and acting and behaving. Like, these are things that we need to realize to embrace the messiness of your process and speak to people about what you've already been through up to that point and what you're actively going through, because he's going to surround you with people that need that. So let's review really quick. We stay silent because we have made comfort our idol. We have a fear of what other people think about us. We have spiritual imposter syndrome. And I'm going to punch you in the face right now with the fourth one. And this one I don't even want to say to you because this is me. And I have a hard time saying this one to you because when the Lord pointed this out in my own life, it was embarrassing and it felt really ugly and dirty. So one of the reasons that we stay quiet about what we've been through and how the Lord has healed us is because we want a license to backslide. So let me just give you an example here. I was a huge pothead when I was divorced and living with a guy that wasn't my husband. I was doing a lot of different drugs, smoked a lot of weed, like a lot of weed. And it has been a process over the years since I got saved to really figure out what place, if any, that has in my life. I mean, you know it. We live in a culture of THC drinks and gummies and these things that are like, oh, well, this isn't alcohol. I'm fine. I have wrestled with this over the years, and I don't tell people the extent that I was addicted to marijuana because in the back of my head, if I decide to do that in a group of people, I don't want somebody to call me out on it. Here's what I mean. If I started to be loud about the fact that Jesus has healed me from a marijuana addiction and an alcohol addiction, if I choose to have a glass of wine and if I choose to take a THC gummy in front of these people, it's going to hurt my story. It's going to hurt my testimony about what God has done for me. And I'm going to backslide in front of people in a very public way. The Bible in Proverbs talks about as a dog returned to its vomit, so a fool repeats his foolishness. Let's just call it what it is. We are human. We are fools. We will return to our own vomit, to the things that hurt us before and that we were chained by before. We have this bent towards that again, and our brains want us to go back there. And so for me, that's a temptation. Alcohol is a big temptation. Marijuana is a big temptation. And I'm not saying that I was addicted to things to the point of like needing AA or being in a rehab program. None of that. But it was actively destroying my life. And I was 100% abusing those things for many, many years. And God has really changed the desires of my heart. And he has called me out of them. Now, true confession, am I perfect about that? No. He has not flat out said to me, you can never have a glass of wine again. It's not that at all. I know I'm not supposed to get drunk again. Drunkenness is a sin, and that's not what he has for me. And I have dabbled with marijuana since I became a Christian for like heavily dabbled for the first couple years to kind of figure out how it fit in my life. And I really got away from it a few years ago, but I will be honest, it's a yearly thing that I fall back into using it at least one time. And so I don't talk enough about how he has set me free from a lot of that, because it is still a little bit of a struggle for me. It's a freedom I have that I am able to say no now, and that I know what's best for me, and that I have moved past choosing those things. So there's a freedom in that sense, but there's not a freedom in the sense that I don't struggle with it. And so I think that we keep our mouth shut about a lot of that because we want to have the option to use those things again without accountability. We want an option to fall back on those things when life gets hard. And we don't want somebody holding a mirror up to our face and saying, you said this. You said you were set free from this. You said the Lord helped you with that. You said your cravings were different. And this is where that process piece comes in again. We have to be honest about where we're at in the process. Talking openly about what you're going through and what you're struggling with. It doesn't have to be something that you have completely put to bed and never think about again in order to have freedom from it. Sometimes that's just opening up to people and saying, yeah, hey, I had a huge pornography problem and I still deal with that temptation today, because I guarantee somebody else is listening going, yep, dealing with that right now. I'm not sure how to deal with it. What are you doing? How are you leaning on the Lord? How is he setting you free? So again, it's this idea of, I can't say something because I want to go back to it. I'm not sure how to talk about something because it's still in process. I'm afraid if I tell people my process that I'm a Christian and that I still struggle with wanting to smoke weed and I still struggle with issues that I thought were gone 5 years ago, that makes me a bad Christian. It doesn't. It doesn't at all. Your honesty about the struggle can set somebody else free from that perfection mindset. That idea that if I'm not living with 100% correct behaviors, that I'm not a good Christian. God's not looking for good behavior. Your good behavior and your choices and your polished little perfect surface life is not what impacts people. It's your story and talking about where you've been, what you've done, and what you currently struggle with. Let me give you an example really quick. I was interviewing a podcast guest last winter, and she had recently listened to my story, and she knew my family, knew my kids. You know, we had hung out a few times, and she looked at me and she said, Amanda, I had no idea. She said, I thought you guys had this perfect family, that you guys were strong Christians, that you and your husband were just so cute and so in love, and that you parented your kids so well. I just thought this was who you are. She said, I had no idea that you had walked through all of that to get to where you were. And that gave her hope that her process and her messiness and her family struggles weren't forever, that they were redeemable, that they were fixable, that God was going to move big in that situation. And she never would have known any of that had I not shared what I had gone through and what I still actively struggle with. I'll be honest, I was surprised that this is the episode that I felt called to release this week. But as I'm talking through this and kind of processing this, I'm hearing the Holy Spirit say, this is what I'm trying to do through your podcast. And I'm just going to be flat out real with you that I've been working really hard to narrow down, what is this podcast about? Because people ask me and I'm like, oh. I mean, we share people's testimonies. We share stories. Like I share struggles and just real parts of real faith. And he's showing me that he wants to help unlock you. He wants to help set you free and help you set down the weight of perfectionism and the pressure of being a perfect Christian, and just to be open and real about the mess that is faith and Christianity. And I want to say out loud the things that so many Christians keep to themselves, and it keeps us stuck and it keeps others stuck. And so this week, I'm going to challenge you. Think about the areas of your life and your story and the things that if you really didn't care what people thought, if you really weren't craving your own comfort, if you weren't looking to hang on to a pet sin that you love and go back to it, what would you say to people? What would you tell them about what God has done in your life, about where you came from, who you used to be, what you still wrestle with? What would you say if you had complete freedom to just be open about it? And then say it to somebody. I don't care. It doesn't have to be your whole testimony. It can be one piece of it. Just say a piece of it to somebody and watch how it unlocks you and you become healed and more set free in your own testimony, and watch how somebody else free. Christians, we can no longer in good conscience carry the answer to the world's greatest problems and shut up about it. We can't continue to carry the Spirit of God inside of us and never let it out of our mouths. You don't have to have a pulpit. You don't have to have a podcast. You don't have to have a platform on social media. All you need to do, and I always think about The Chosen, where somebody said to Mary, why do you follow Jesus? Why do you believe in Jesus? And she said, I don't know, but I know that I was one way and I met him and now I'm different. That's all it takes, is for you to say to somebody that I don't have it all figured out, that I don't have the answers that you might be looking for, but here's what I can tell you. I was this way. I struggled with this. I died under the weight of this, and now I'm different. And the only explanation is Jesus. So I want to ask you just a blunt question. Who is still in chains because you're keeping the keys to their freedom in your pocket? What areas of your life and your story are you shying away from telling and allowing somebody else to still struggle in that area? We are hoarding hope. We are hoarding answers. We're hoarding joy. We're hoarding peace. We're hoarding love. We're hoarding all of these things in our little one-on-one relationship with God, and we need to let them out. We need to unblock the pipeline and allow God to work through us to other people. If you have a story, if you have a testimony and you feel called to share it on a bigger platform, you email me. My email will be linked in the show notes. It's hello@amandaherdler.com. Email me. I want to talk to you. I want to get your story out there because your words and your wisdom can help set somebody else free. All right. I love you guys. We'll talk next week.